This is AP and DP, SEC ACC. I'm AP Stedham from LA, Lower Alabama. My co-host, DP, Doug Parrish, former University of California defensive back extraordinaire, covering the ACC, and I'm covering the SEC. Hey, Doug, how are you this week? Week
I'm doing
6.
fantastic, AP. Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. It is week 6, and we have a lot of great teams to cover. I'm sure you're super excited because the SEC has a significant amount of teams that are in the top teams in the country. So I wanted to ask you a quick question about that, AP. You got 9 or 10 teams, depending on which poll you're looking at. Yeah, the AP poll or the Football Writers Association. So talk to me a little bit about how does it feel to have all of these amazing teams in the top of the country?
Yeah, well, at the moment, they have the respect, the SEC, 9 teams. I'm looking at the Football Writers Association, National Football Foundation Super 16 poll. My individual ballot, I have 9 SEC teams, and I have in the composite of the 56 voters of that Super 16 poll, they have 9 SEC teams as well. So I guess they have respect for those coaches and teams and programs. So we shall see at the end of the season what that final number might be. But it's always the strong SEC and the ACC, the two of the better conferences. So let's play these games and see who's the winner.
There you go, my man. I think that having the top teams in the nation, we're covering both from the ACC and the SEC, and I'll just go ahead and dive right on in. From Boston College, they're at Pitt this weekend, AP. Some of the key players to watch is quarterback Dylan Lonergan. He has over 1,188 yards passing already. The kid has a big arm, AP, and he can push the ball down the field. Look out for a running back, Turbo Richards. You got to love that name, right? Yeah. He's steady on the ground. He has about 329 yards rushing. And wide receiver, Lewis Bunn, he's Lonergan's, he's his favorite target. So he has 352 yards receiving. And on defense, you got to take a look at KP Price. He has 26 tackles, AP, on the season. And linebacker Davion Crouch, he has 1 key interception. The key over on Pitt side is Eli Holston. Now, this kid has 1,050 yards passing. He's the engine of the offense. Running back Desmond Reed, he has 142 yards rushing. Not huge numbers, but he adds balance. Wide receiver Raphael Williams Jr., 302 yards rushing. He's the go-to playmaker. He's a wide receiver, And the defense is led by Rasheem Biles. He has 41 tackles, plus Kyle Lewis has an interception. Now, these coaches on these 2 teams, Jeff Hafley for BC wants discipline and he wants efficiency. Pat Narduzzi for Pitt, he leans on the physicality of this defense and situational toughness. Now, what to watch? Can BC get a good passing attack and stay hot against Pitt's linebackers? Who wins on third down is going to be critical, AP. And the turnovers, as we both know, can be the decisive factor in this game. This is going to be a hard-nosed fight and a physical ACC battle. And if BC's offense stays balanced, they've got a shot. But if Pitt forces Lonergan into mistakes, Narduzzi's team could grind out a home win. So it should be a very interesting game.
Yeah, Bill O'Brien's coaching that BC team. He's an offensive-oriented type coach. So let's see if we can get him going, get BC going.
Yes, absolutely. I think I said, I thank you for that correction too. So here's one near and dear to me. Duke is at Cal. All right, we jumped into these predictions about how Cal is going to be a pretty dynamic team this season. Cal is currently 4-1, AP, and they've been led by their sensational quarterback. They call him JKS. All right, Saga Pulitelli is his last name. and he's already over 1,200 yards passing, and their running game is clicking. They got Kendrick Raphael. He's been steady as they go with 347 yards. And through the air, JKS is looking for Tron Grizel, who leads all receivers with 342 yards. And defensively, I like the way Cal is playing defensively. They're bringing some serious muscle from linebacker and team captain Cade Uliave, who's already got 40 tackles, and Hezekiah Massis, a defensive back, number 5. He continues to shine, leading the country in interceptions. So he's leading that secondary. Now Duke is coming in quiet. Nobody's giving them a chance, it seems like, AP. But the Blue Devils, they're 3-2. They're sitting on top of the ACC right now. You know, Darian Menza, he's the quarterback. He's been lighting it up. He's got 1,500 yards passing right now, AP. And so he's got to get some help from his running back, Nate Shepard, who's closing in on 400 yards rushing. And then the wideout, Barcody, he's got over 400 yards receiving. And on defense, they got some key players. Caleb Weaver has 37 tackles, which is not shabby on the season. And Musa Kane, who's come up with a big interception this year. Justin Wilcox is going to have to get his team off and running really fast in order to compete effectively against the Duke Blue Devils. I'm looking forward to Cal's balanced offense against Duke's competitive defense and explosive passing attack on their side. They're going to be under the lights at Memorial Stadium. It should be an ACC showdown. So I'm looking forward to a competitive game against those two ACC rivals.
Oh, yeah. Duke had the big victory versus Syracuse last week, a dominating win, 38-3. So, yeah, Cal better be ready for the Blue Devils there. That's a hot team, seems like. But anyway, Doug, we have 5 games in the SEC. We have the byes, 7 byes. Auburn has a bye, Arkansas, LSU, Ole Miss, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Missouri. So the first game we're going to review is the Vanderbilt versus Alabama. Vanderbilt sitting at 5-0. That's only the second time, Doug, in 80 years of the program. They're sitting at 5-0. Wow. This series, Alabama leads the series 60 wins, 20 losses, 4 ties. Vandy's coming off a 20-point victory over Utah State at home in Nashville, 55-35. Alabama with the big victory on the road over Georgia, 24-21. Alabama's sitting at 3-1, 1-0 in the conference. They're a 13.5-point favorite. They're number 8 in the country. The Football Writers National Football Foundation Super 16 poll. Alabama's a team, Doug, they give up a lot of yardage against the run. It's averaging about 160, but they gave over 200 to Georgia. And we know that Vanderbilt has a balanced offense of 200-plus yards rushing, 200-plus yards passing, almost 300 yards passing, 271. So that's almost about it's 500 yards, 494 yards, almost 500 yards of offense. And the Vanderbilt defense is playing well, only 278 yards. They surrender. They're giving up 17 points a game, averaging 49 points a game. The Commodores are in this 2025 season. Alabama's averaging 38 points a game. They're surrendering just 16 points per game. Alabama's 10th in passing. Ty Simpson, he's been so efficient and on fire with, I think it's nearly 80% of his passes completion. I think it's 78%. So he's thrown for 321 yards a game at this point. So a big game. Diego Pavia, he beat Alabama last year. They put the 40 points on Alabama, which included a pick 6 by the Vanderbilt defense. He has 1,200 yards, 13 TDs, 3 interceptions. He's also provided a couple of touchdowns rushing, 294 yards on the ground for Diego Pavia. And Eli Stowers is an all-American tight end, 300 yards, 22 receptions. He has a couple of TDs. He burned Alabama last year, I think, for 100 yards. So big ball game down in Tuscaloosa. As I say, a lot of people are watching this game because of the outcome last year when the first time in I think it was 60 years Vanderbilt beat, or they were 0-60, I think, or something like that against the number 1 team. They finally beat the number 1 team, which was Alabama at that time, coming off a victory over Georgia. Same scenario this year, but should be a competitive game. I think it'll be less than the 13.5 That's what I say. I think because I think Vanderbilt believes in themselves. They're slightly better. I think they're more physical this year. They went out to the portal and did very well acquiring talent on the offense and defensive line. Game 2 for me, Doug, is Kentucky at Georgia. Kentucky's really struggling on offense, Doug. Their quarterback, Cutter Boley, haven't played much football. They're averaging 27 points a game, which is kind of deceiving, giving up 26 points a game. They lost last week on the road to South Carolina, 35-13. In this series, Georgia leads 64 wins, 12 losses, 2 ties. Georgia's a 20-point favorite. They're 3-1. The Bulldogs 1-1 in the conference, coming off that home loss to Alabama, 24-21. Georgia's a team, though, Doug, they don't rush the passer very much. Not that it matters in this game, but it's just something I wanted to point out. They're averaging 34 points a game. Georgia is right now giving up 19 points per game. Kentucky right now is, like I said, we gave those averages 27 points a game, allowing 26 points a game. The turnover margin for Kentucky is minus 0.5, which is the same for Georgia. So Georgia probably going to win this ball game convincingly. I would think they're 103rd in the tackles for loss and 114th in sacks. So they play good defense, but you can pass against Georgia, but Kentucky's not very good at throwing the football. So I think Kentucky's probably come up on the short end of this ball game, Doug.
That's pretty interesting. You know, you were talking about that Vanderbilt game. I vividly remember the fans storming the field and taking the field goal. I think they had to do a GoFundMe or something to replace that.
The goalpost.
The goalpost. Yeah. That was so funny. All right. So my team's AP, I got Clemson at North Carolina. All right. This is going to shape up to be an interesting game because Clemson enters into this game uncharacteristically 1-3. They're reeling in from a loss. Dabo Swinney, I don't know. He needs to press reset or do something, man. Their quarterback, Klubnik, man, he passed for like close to 1,000 yards. But, you know, their running back, Adam Randall, he has about 400 yards. And then the wide receiver, Westco Jr., you know, has about 400 yards. But defensively, they're going to have to step it up. And that's going to be a responsibility of Wade Woodaz. And he's flying around. He's got 35 tackles running. Hanafin has made a splash in the secondary, but they're going to have to be firing on all cylinders this week against Bill Belichick, you know, and his UNC staff. They're going to be leaning on Gio Lopez, who has about 430 yards so far. They have a wide receiver, Damon June. He owns the backfield. He's got 250 rushing yards and a wideout. Jordan Shipp with 193 yards receiving. Now on the defense, you got to look at Andrew Simpson. He leads all linebackers and all tacklers with 28, while the cornerback Caleb Koss, he has an interception to lead everyone. So explosive plays. Momentum is going to be the key of this game. Last Saturday, you know, the Tigers fell short when Georgia Tech drilled a 55-yard field goal, AP, to win the game as time expired. You know, Clemson tied the game 21-21, but they just couldn't get over the hump at that game, man. So very tough loss for them. In terms of the Tar Heels, they came up sharp in their 41-6 victory against Richmond. That, like I said, Damon June was electric. He had 148 yards rushing. He had a long 45-yard touchdown run. That gave them momentum, and that's what you need. You need big plays by big-time players to win in this league right now. Makai Bayor, he forced a fumble and returned it for a touchdown. That was a big-time play. And what I say, like when a big-time players make big-time plays in big-time games, man, that is so true. But they had a goal line stance collectively as a defense. UNC, North Carolina, had a goal line stance. And so Clemson is under pressure. Dabo Swinney is under pressure right now, in my opinion, AP. They need to rediscover their identity and get Klubnik and Randall to reignite their offense. And then meanwhile, they got to keep the momentum going. Dabo Sweeney has to steady the ship against, guess who? Bill Belichick, a premier big time coach that came from the NFL. My second game, AP, is Miami at Florida State. Last week, Florida State suffered a gut punch, double overtime to Virginia. It was crazy. Castellanos threw for 254 yards, AP, and he ran for 78. Come on, man. You got a quarterback that's doing magic like that on the field. You got to win, right? Robinson had 147 yards and a touchdown, but a late interception cost them. Miami was off, but their defense, led by Reuben Bain Jr., was relentless. So Florida State has to take it to the Hurricanes in Tallahassee. Now, I've been to Tallahassee, AP, and I'm sure you have too. That place is intense and it is loud. It is like a bombs going off. But this weekend is a rivalry matchup. Why? You like Sun, AP? This is the Sunshine rivalry.
That's it, Sunshine State.
Quarterback Tommy Castellanos, man, he's closing in on 900 yards so far. And his top target, Deuce Robinson, they're going to have to show up and show out. Defensively, Earl Little Jr., he's leading the team in tackles. He's got 28, and Jerry Wilson has snagged 2 interceptions. So big question is for this game, AP, can Florida State's secondary slow down Beck? You remember him from Georgia last year. Can Castellanos make enough big plays with his arm and his feet to maintain it for the Noles this weekend? So it should be either way, it's bragging rights in the state of Florida.
Yeah, two teams from the ACC trying to reach the college football playoffs and win the conference as well. Long-time heated rivals, and most of those players, they're familiar with each other. Maybe they played on the same high school team. Maybe they competed against each other in neighboring schools.
Sure.
Some of those players from South Florida, they do make their way up to Tallahassee to be on the Seminoles roster. And every once in a while, you get some players from North Florida going down to Miami. So there's a lot of intrigue and interest in the entire state of Florida. And outside the country, they like to watch that game because there's been superior talent as well that's wound up being drafted into the NFL. So look for a good ball game there in Tallahassee. Next game I have for you at Mississippi State. They're 4-1, 0-1 in the conference. They lost in overtime to Tennessee, 41-34. I covered that game last week in Starkville. They're playing Texas A&M, number 5, Texas A&M. Texas A&M's a 13.5-point favorite. Texas A&M sitting at 4-0, undefeated, 1-0 in the conference, coming off a 16-10 hard-fought victory over Auburn. Looking at Texas A&M, Marcel Reed, their quarterback, he's completed about 60% of his passes. Right now, they're throwing close to 300 yards, 294 yards per game. Pretty good run, 169 yards as well. Defensively, they're surrendering 24 points a game. They're scoring at 35 points a game, Texas A&M. So they don't have the defense, I think, that Mike Elko would like at this time, but they're winning ball games, and that's important. Mississippi State averaging 38 points a game, surrendering 17 points per game. They're 14th in the country in the turnover margin, 1.2, Mississippi State. Right now, Texas A&M, they're 6th in the country, sacking the quarterback, 9th in tackles for loss. So those are significant positive numbers for them defensively. But the turnover margin, they're minus 0.25. So this series is 9-9. It's tied. Both teams have won 9 and lost 9. So it's a good competitive game. Normally, Texas A&M probably is going to win this ball game, I think, even though Mississippi State is a much improved team, especially on the defensive side. Blake Shapen, their quarterback, he's a very competent, good passer. Like I said, had a chance to win that game against Tennessee. They gave up a pick six and fumble by the quarterback, and they ran in there for a touchdown. So they gave up 14 points. When I say gave up, I mean Tennessee took the ball from them and scored 14 points.
Wow.
So they would have had a chance to win if maybe one of those touchdowns didn't occur on the mistakes by the offense. Next game I have is I call it an exhibition game because it's a money game where a team from the MAC, Kent State, they had a bye. They're going to visit Norman, Oklahoma. Kent State's 1-3, 0-1 in the conference. This series is in favor of Oklahoma, 1-0. Oklahoma, the number 6 team, they had a bye. They're 4-0, 1-0 in the conference. So they're favored by 45.5 points. So like I said, it's more of an exhibition and a money game where you're paying a team to be there on Saturday so you can have someone to compete against that day.
That's pretty funny, AP. Next, I have in the ACC, number 24 ranked Virginia at Louisville. All right, so undefeated Louisville Cardinals. They head into ACC play against the red-hot Virginia Cavaliers. 2 teams, 2 electric offenses, 2 great playmakers on both sides of the ball. This one could go down to the wire, in my opinion. Virginia enters the matchup. They pulled off a dramatic 46-38 double overtime upset over number 8 Florida State last week. Chandler Morris delivering big multiple rushing TDs and clutch plays down the end of the game. That was a phenomenal game. Virginia's Jason Prevert clinched a win with an interception on 4th and 12. That kind of momentum helps lead the defense, and he becomes a leader of that defense. Louisville, meanwhile, overcame a 17-point deficit last game against Pittsburgh, beating them 34-27, keeping their perfect record alive. That kind of grit, again, maintains the momentum. Both of these teams are bringing in a lot of confidence, AP. So Virginia's off to a good start. So is Louisville. Expect the energy to be high. Miller Moss is their quarterback for Louisville. He's already over 1,000 yards passing. Isaac Brown, running back, he's got 270 yards rushing. It is definitely a balanced type of deal when it comes to these tactical battles that are going on between these 2 teams. My prediction, I'm expecting a shootout, AP. Both offenses are capable of lighting up the scoreboard. So we'll see what happens and how this battle turns out between Virginia and Louisville. And oh, by the way, side note, I'm a little surprised that Louisville is not ranked. So we got to see what's going on there. So as you talk about Campbell is coming into NC State. Now, you think that this is one of those layup games that you were just alluding to, AP. So it's interesting to see this clash between Campbell fighting Campbell's coming into Raleigh to take on NC State. Campbell comes in, they're 1-4 on the season, and NC State is 3-2. NC State is trying to build momentum as well, in the ACC. So this could be one of those pivotal games for them to just go off and tee off and let their hair down and, fly on all cylinders. Their Wolfpack's offense is led by CJ Bailey. He's already thrown over 1,300 yards this season, AP. He spreads the ball around to a variety of catchers, wide receivers, and then on the ground, he hands it off to Hollywood Smothers, another cool name. He's been electric all season. He has about 600 yards rushing, giving NC State balance to keep the defense honest. And so defensively for the Wolfpack, they have some real hammers, man. Camden Forden, the linebacker, he's been a tackling machine. Guess how many tackles he's got? 52 already. He's like up front, the defensive end, Isaiah Shirley, he's been disruptive. He may not be getting, sacks or anything like that, but just his presence in itself, he's been like, just being disruptive is the best way to describe it. On the other side, Campbell Fighting Camels, like I said, they're 1-4, but they have a quarterback. His name is Camden Six Killer, another cool name, right? He has 1,098 yards passing this season. He's proven he can move the ball. He's got a running back, J.J. Cowan, who's been trying to find more room to run. He's got 163 yards, which is not a lot, but they also have a really cool, good wide receiver by Randall King, and he's got 333 yards receiving. On the defensive side, Campbell's got to really, really, stack up well against NC State, because the defensive back, Donovan Fillard, he's got an interception. He's going to have to get more of that. He's got to get pass breakups, and he's got to get in there and have his eyes in the right position to make a play on some of these deep threats that NC State is going to come down the pipe with. They're going to have a lot of firepower. So it may be just a lot for Campbell, but it is all going down this weekend. So I'm looking forward to NC State pulling this game off.
Yeah, they should. Or to pay somebody to come in and play you for a money game, you don't like to lose those. Those are embarrassing.
Yeah.
Doug, but Doug, before I bring you up to the last game for the SEC, I just want to backtrack to Oklahoma. John Mateer, their quarterback, hurt his hand, so he had surgery. So he'd probably be out another couple more weeks. I don't know if he's going to come back for the Oklahoma-Texas Red River rivalry next week or not. But Michael Hawkins Jr. is the replacement. I saw Michael play last year. He's a dual threat quarterback out of Dallas. He was a true freshman last year. But I'm not sure about John Mateer. I mean, his health is a concern because he was a early Heisman contender, and he's a transfer from Washington State, one of the better quarterbacks in the conference. So he's on the injured list at the moment. But the last game we have in the SEC, Texas, number 9, they're 3-1, 0-0 in the SEC. They had a bye last week. They're playing Florida down in the swamp, Gainesville, Florida, struggling at 1-3, 0-1 in the conference. They also had a bye. This series, Doug, there's only been 4 games. Texas has won 3. There's been 1 tie in this series. Texas is averaging 31 points a game, which is not a big number considering you have Arch Manning at quarterback, but their defense has been sensational, only 7.8 points per game, 4th in the country. The offense is 438 yards. It's balanced, 200 yards rushing, 230-plus passing. And the turnover margin, Texas is positive 0.75. Florida, 22 points a game. As I said, the offense is not hit its stride yet with DJ Lagway as the quarterback. But the defense has played fairly well. Only 16 points a game, 24th in the country. They surrendered 284 yards, which is 22nd in the country. Arch Manning right now, Doug, 65 completions out of 106 attempts, 888 yards, 61%, 9 TDs, 3 interceptions, rushing for 123 yards, 5 TDs on the ground. So he's accounted for 14, but he has not played above average at this time. Right now, if you look at his completion record, it's 61%, but he missed a lot of passes where he's bouncing the ball off the turf. And so this is a huge game for him because he's going to a very hostile environment in Gainesville, the swamp, one of the tougher places to win a game. Even though Florida is struggling offensively, their quarterback DJ Lagway, I think he's from Texas, so it means it's an important game for him playing the University of Texas. But Texas is a 7.5-point favorite. That game could be closer, Doug, because I just don't know what Arch Manning and company is going to do on the road against that tough defense and the crowd. And DJ Lagway, maybe maybe they can be more efficient and effective, but they haven't been so far this season. So 2 states with tremendous high school football, Texas and Florida. All the conferences recruit Texas. All the conferences recruit Florida. But it just so happens that those 2 teams over the last 20 years, the state universities, the flagship universities, they've had roller coaster history so far in the last, let's say, 20 years. They should be at the top all the time. They shouldn't have a drop with all that talent present in the state. But but that's been the facts in the last couple of decades for both schools. Yeah.
Well, it's going to be tough to win in Florida for sure with the crowd. AP on the ACC side, we got Syracuse at SMU. All right, SMU, Rhett Lashley and his team. He's one of my favorite coaches out there coaching right now. They're 2-2, and they're still trying to find some consistency. The offense has some firepower, but you got TJ Harden running hard. You got, Romilio Benson. He's been a real spark. But if SMU need to get involved really early in the game, it can open things up for them. And then defensively, I really like what I see in this kid, Isaiah Wokobia. He brings 31 tackles on the season already. He's everywhere, AP. Just check him out this weekend. Then they have a nice corner, Jalen Davis Robinson. He's a ball hawk, and he's been in the secondary. He's got a couple of interceptions already. On the flip side for Syracuse, that it's all about Ricky Collins because the other quarterback got hurt. So he takes over and brings a different look for the Orangemen's offense. And we talked about this earlier. He's going to have to be consistent. He's going to have to get the ball down the field to his playmakers. And Yassine Willis is going to be behind him. He's going to be handing that off to him. He's got about 300 yards rushing already. And then also Darryl Gill Jr. is his go-to wide receiver at this particular time. And so Collins has to find Gill Jr. They need to get comfortable, AP, and then they got to get the offense to kind of slow down, because when you're just thrown out there, in the heat of things, the game is so fast. They just need to slow it down a little bit. And then on defense, Gary Bryant III, he leads the charge. He's got actually 26 tackles. And then on the back end, they have a defensive back that Bram Long Jr., he's already picked off a pass this season. So the big question for SMU's is can SMU's defense rattle Collins, right? Right from the start. Get them all jittered back there, get them, to make a mistake, but he needs to be settled in. He needs to, have a balanced attack. And for SMU, they need to lean on Harden and Brinson enough to keep the pace. Either way, it's going to be a scrappy, competitive game, and it can swing either way, particularly if there are some turnovers involved, AP. All right, so we got another game coming at you. Wake Forest at Virginia Tech. New interim head coach, Philip Montgomery, is going to be looking for Kyron Drones, already thrown for over 1,100 yards this season. He's the guy they're leaning on to keep the offense moving. And in the backfield, you got Tyron Stewart is one of their top rushers. He's got 239 yards. And then Aiden Green has been the most reliable target with 244 yards receiving. On defense, you got to take a look at Isaiah Cash. He's a safety, AP, but he's been coming up, head up, bowled up, making about 25 tackles already this season. And believe it or not, their leading receiver, their leading interceptor is a defensive lineman, Kamari Copeland. Man, but everybody has to pitch in order to make things happen when you want to win championships. Wake Forest on the other side, switching over to them, they got Robbie Ashford as the quarterback, and he's setting around 1,000 yards passing. The ground game is powered by Damon Claiborne. He's piled up 366 yards so far, AP. And then the passing game, Chris Barnes is their main playmaker. He has 287 yards receiving. On defense, Nick Anderson has been their leader in tackles. He's got 34, and Zamari Stevenson has chipped in with an interception on the back end in the secondary. Now, the bottom line, this feels like one of those games that could come down to turnovers, AP, late in the game. One big play on defense, one mistake by either quarterback, and that could be the deciding factor. Should be a fun one to watch. I'm just going to go on and say that Stanford in the ACC, they're 2-3. They have a bye. Their next game is going to be at SMU. So that should be something to watch out for. And then Georgia Tech has a bye this week, AP. Their next game is going to be at home against Virginia Tech. And that's what I have for you.
Okay, that sounds pretty good. Good slate of games this week, week 6. So this is AP and DP, SEC, ACC, SEC. This is our 6th week edition, and we'll see you next week for the week 7. Look forward to it. Okay, DP, have a good week.
All right, signing off, AP. Take care, man. Good talking to you.